I'm here with Ian Skerrett from Canada, and we're going to talk about open source options in building IoT and across all various different kind of applications. So hi here, how are you?
Hi, well, thank you for having me. I'm very, very pleased that we could get this set up.
So tell me a little bit about who you are, what do you do? I just know you're affiliated with Eclipse Foundation.
Sure. I work at the Eclipse Foundation, so I'm one of the leaders of the Eclipse IoT open source community. Lots of people know of the Eclipse community as being really good for doing Java development tools. But we're actually a community of open source projects. And so for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been building up a community of open source projects around IoT. And so now we're at 26, I think 27 open source projects that are focused on building kind of what I think of as the building blocks for IoT solutions in open source.
So it is not just Java.
Yeah, it's not just Java. It's definitely not tools. It's frameworks and SDKs and runtimes that developers incorporate into their IoT solutions. Some of them are written in Java, some are written in C, some are written in JavaScript, some are in Python.
Wow.
We're very much technology agnostic.
Okay, that's very cool. So before we go into this whole world of open source, maybe you should tell for the people who are relatively new, right? In open source, you have standards and then you have frameworks, right? Can you tell us a little bit of what it is? Because that was one of the things that I had to understand before I expanded my knowledge of what Eclipse could do for IoT.
Sure, yeah, for sure. So the way I think is that a standard is something that's written down and kind of agreed to upon by a collection of people on kind of, for instance, how do you exchange messages between two different IoT solutions or two different parts of an IoT solution. So that's kind of a written document that stipulates what a message would look like. And then a framework is really an implementation, in this instance, is implementation of that standard, right? So, and a good standard would have multiple implementations, be it from different providers, different language implementations of that standard. And some are in open source.
MQTT would be a standard?
Yes, so MQTT is a standard built by a standard group called the Oasis. They publish that standard and kind of have a community of standards people that kind of work on that standard and improve on it. And then in the implementation of that standard is an example would be in the Eclipse community, the Eclipse PAHO project, where we have an implementation of an MQTT client in Java, JavaScript, C, Python, etc. We also, for MQTT, have an implementation of the MQTT broker, the Eclipse Mosquito project.
What all does the standards cover? Like what all? So you said messaging is one. What are the standards that you broadly have?
So I think, so kind of at a high level, we've been focused on, there's some key IoT standards that have been emerging in the industry that we have implementations on. So MQTT we mentioned, CoAP from the IETF is another standard that we have implementations of in a project called California. For doing device management, OMA has done a very good job on a standard called Lightweight M2M. And we have implementations of that in projects called Eclipse Lushin and Eclipse Wakayama.
So that would be like machine-to-machine IoT devices communicating with each other in a factory setting.
Well, so actually, that was going to be the next one I was going to get to. But so Lightweight M2M is device management. It's how do you configure in a remote way a device? How do you set up a new device from a remote way? Communication with factory machines is, in the industrial side, there's a standard called OPC UA. And so we have an implementation of OPC UA, and that's one of the most common standards we're seeing in industrial automation, or in Germany and in Europe called Industry 4.0. That OPC UA is very important. And so we have an implementation of that called Eclipse Milo.
So I had heard of fun implementation of IoT for a stadium where I think it was in Canada, a sports team gave out some kind of IoT device for people, and that means that many devices had to be configured, right? You don't think of that as a consumer, you just have this Sabre thing, right?
Yeah,
to wave
exactly.
around, and it shows collectively on the screen. The output of it shows on the screen.
Well, for instance, if you are managing a bunch of kind of commercial coffee machines, where you're monitoring the coffee machine, the maintenance of the coffee machine, and need to push out a new system upgrade to those coffee machines, you could use lightweight M2M to do that. If you sell a new coffee machine and want to configure it specifically for that cafe in Germany or France, then you can do that remotely. So that's kind of the better scenario, I think, for lightweight M2M.
Would connected cars fall under the same thing?
Yeah, connected cars, absolutely. Right.
Remotely, you upgrade and do security patches and the like, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were saying about the industrial example, right? After the lightweight, and I got very curious about lightweight. So.
Yeah. So OpenCUA is the standard for in industrial with machine to machines and talk to each other. So I think that's the other kind of standard that we've been focused on. There's some more kind of what I would call niche oriented standards, but kind of the OpenCUA, MQTT, Co-op, Lightweight, M2M, I think are more the general purpose standards that we have out there.
So I would love to hear about the implementations of this. But before that, I mean, can you tell us who are these developers? It's not just Java developers. So what is the profile of these developers? And I know you did a survey that you shared with me earlier.
Yeah. So I think one of the challenges with IoT is it's very diverse, right? So we think of there's kind of the maker community, there's the technology, kind of the technology provider community, and then there's the enterprise community that are doing industrial solutions. And so the maker community is often kind of small, medium business startups that are doing prototypes, proof of concepts. They're learning about the new technology out there, and they're using things like Raspberry Pis or Arduino boards are out there. And that certainly bears out in our survey. So we do a survey once a year, and we're going to kind of rerun it again this coming spring. And I think it was like over 80% of people that responded have used what I call open hardware or accessible hardware for doing a proof of concept or to learn. So it's very, very prevalent out there. And then we then if you look at kind of the technology adoptions, kind of what they're using there, and languages like, can we ask what language people are using? So things like Java, C++, JavaScript, and Python, I think are in kind of that order for that. So, but I think one developer is often not, it's usually a team of developers, I think, that do an IoT solution, because you need hardware people, you need kind of networking people, developers, you need application developers, you need cloud and back-end developers. So it's pretty complex systems usually to put together. So you kind of have to look broadly across your entire value chain of technology to get all the skills that you need.
So I remember you even had in your survey results, you even had what cloud was mostly used. I remember AWS was way up there, and Microsoft and Google were like a second, but way down.
Well, I think, Amazon was definitely number one. I think if I recall, and I'm not sure if I can quickly find it, but a private on-prem was number two. So lots of people still host things internally for it, but then Microsoft would be number three. So it's Amazon is definitely the gorilla in cloud services for sure. So
I'm trying to understand who can use this. When Eclipse provides all these IoT frameworks for various different languages, right?
Yeah.
So technically, somebody could use the AWS cloud and could use. I know Amazon came with their own AWS IoT service, and then I think they support MQTT and Co-op, I think. So right. So what do you tell developers who are saying, "Hey, I did not know Eclipse could use all these, that I could do this with Python or any language."
So one of the things to know is that the AWS IoT SDK uses actually Eclipse PAHO for doing MQTT support.
Okay.
Right? So one of the users are some of the cloud providers, right? So IBM Watson will use PAHO for MQTT support too. right? And so companies like Bosch and Sierra Wireless use our technology in their commercial offerings. And that's kind of one of the primary use cases for open source in general, technology in general, is that a lot of the technology providers that everyone uses will build on top of open source technology. Okay, and that's definitely going on with the Eclipse IoT community.
So that is fantastic. So even if somebody identifies themselves as an AWS user, or uses something else, right? That's their favorite technology platform. They might be, when they connect to IoT, that messaging platform is actually going to be.
They could be Eclipse.
So they might be using Eclipse on the back end, or they might not know that Eclipse is an option. So.
Yeah. Now, but I think the other major use case is that, okay, if you want to build your own solution, you don't want to use something like AWS IoT, or you just want to use kind of AWS for the virtualization or the database backend, and kind of build a very special purpose IoT solution, you could use some of our technology to do that. I think the easiest example is that instead of going and implementing MQTT yourself, you think MQTT is a really good messaging protocol. Instead of implementing yourself, which really doesn't help you build a better application, you would use an implementation from Eclipse.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, this weekend, actually, I was at a developer camp in San Francisco, and it was about building chatbots. An amazing set of apps were built. It was not the typical chatbot. It was some kind of communication embedded in gaming, in so many different. And there was a company called PubNub who actually provide connectivity between what they call as two blocks between two devices, right? You build a block, and then it can connect anywhere to the web, using HTTP. So I think even those users, those developers I saw over the weekend could actually build on Eclipse when they come build out IoT solutions. So
for sure,
You have a competition going. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah.
So deadline around the corner.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we do each year is we want to we're all about. We think IoT solutions should be built using open standards and open source implementation, because that's how you're going to get an open and interoperable Internet of Things. And so we're running a challenge for developers who want to try out building an IoT solution using open source and open standards. And so it's called the Open IoT Challenge, and we're running it. We're basically accepting proposals. The deadline's this week, on Friday. But the process is
Friday. Friday. I have a global audience, so it is Friday. What time?
Friday. It's just ended. The last Friday. The last hour on Friday, wherever you live, right? How about that?
Oh, okay.
Right. So, usually it's would be midnight on Pacific time. In the U.S. that would say. So, but the idea is you put in a proposal of what you want to build. We will go and select 10 proposals and send you a gift card to buy some open hardware. And then you have 3 months to build the solution. And then we have a panel of judges that select the winner. And there's prizes at the end.
So this is awesome, because by Friday, people just have to submit ideas that they are serious about building. They have to spend some thinking time, but they don't need to send you anything else, right? They don't need to send you a prototype or videos or anything else. And it's good you're actually giving them some open hardware, so they don't need to think of, oh, I need to go buy a Raspberry Pi, I need to buy this kind of setup, I need to think through all the details of all the connectivity that I need.
Right. Yeah. We'll send you a gift card and to help you buy the hardware that you need. So
you know what I'm going to tell my students at Stanford, because they are all building IoT
absolutely
proposals, and they all don't have the hardware, and they think it all needs time, and it won't be done within the course time, and so maybe you'll see a bunch of proposals coming.
That'd be great. And
so, do you have more about the winners from last time?
And last year, the winner was amazing. There was a team in India who was doing remote e-health, And so they actually set up a system where they could, using just a Raspberry Pi and some sensors, do monitoring people remotely with heart rate and body temperature and etc. It was all MQTT messaging, and I think they actually hosted on IBM Watson IoT. So it was a pretty impressive solution.
Wow.
There's been, in previous years, there's been people that do kind of water monitoring for soil moisture using open hardware and open source. There has been some robotic examples that people have too. So it's been really successful. It's been really, really interesting to watch.
So 10 people get the gift card, and those 10 people get to compete in the end? How does it work?
No, everyone can still compete in the end. We just nominate 10 groups to receive the gift card. In early December, we'll identify 10 people to get the gift card, but everyone can continue on in the competition, in the challenge, until the end of February.
Well, that's plenty of time.
Yeah.
So, right, at least for the people in US, this Friday is Black Friday. So
yeah.
After Thanksgiving, I think the shops actually start opening up by midnight, so we will have time to sit and think about what this proposal is. And then maybe on Friday after our shopping, we can go and, submit something on Eclipse. So where should people submit the proposal on Friday?
So you can go to iot.eclipse.org, that website, and there's a link there to the challenge. And on the challenge page, there's a form that you can fill out with your proposal.
Awesome. So I would like to continue our discussion about frameworks.
Sure.
You told us about standards. Tell us a little bit about the different frameworks, because finally the developers who are going to submit, they are going to go use one of the frameworks.
Yeah.
Right? What are the options?
Yeah, so first of all, it doesn't have to all be Eclipse projects to participate in the challenge. It just has to be open source technology.
Oh wow.
Right. So we certainly encourage you to use Eclipse, right? IoT technology, but it doesn't just have to be Eclipse. And
there are all these secrets that people can submit and then continue on till February. All they have to do is just a proposal, a submission, and it can be anything open source. I think I'm so glad you're talking here on the show. I'm going to go send this out to the world.
Good. So and kind of what we think about when we talk about IoT technology, we think of 3 stacks of technology. So we have a stack of open source technology for constrained devices. So it's right on the MCU, where we have a set of projects that are focused on building open source technology for MCUs. Then we have a stack of technology for what I call the gateway, the IoT gateway, or even a smart device. And so we have a general purpose IoT gateway called Eclipse Cura. So basically, it's a set of services that you would need to consolidate information from sensors and send it to the network. We also have Eclipse Smart Home, which is a home automation framework. That's very popular. It's actually paired. Its sister project is called OpenHab, which is very popular in the maker community.
So what does OpenHab do? Sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
OpenHab is a project that uses Eclipse Smart Home, and it's a home automation open source project that has probably 100 different types of drivers for different protocol support in the home. So like the Philips Hue light bulb, N-Ocean support, Zigbee support, Z-Wave support, HomeKit, it keeps on going, the drivers that they have.
So this is classic for somebody who's a maker who's got a bunch of IoT devices, like I'm here powered by a Hue also.
Yep. So you should definitely go get a Raspberry Pi, right?
I do have one.
Smart home, and then start wiring it up your home with that. That you should enter the challenge.
You're tempting me now.
Yeah.
So anybody who's doing a home automation project, tying various devices together, can actually build out a hub or their own hub, right?
We have a project that really basically is a hub for doing that, right?
Okay.
So then we put for the challenge, probably building your own hub, right? Probably won't be kind of qualify for being all that innovative because we already have a hub in open source, right? Now, taking the hub and kind of using it in innovative ways, right? That might be a good solution for the challenge.
Okay. Especially people who have multiple devices at home, right? I mean, I have simple setup where I have various, Nest Cam and Nest, and I have Alexa, and I have these Alexa talking to Nest, or now I have Google Home and Alexa. I'm kind of playing with it without a purpose, honestly, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying that you have the framework to actually build out something that makes the home really connected.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So,
and you said IBM Watson uses one of your standards and framework. Which one was that?
So on the SDK for IBM Watson for doing MQTT support, they'll use Eclipse PAHO.
Oh, they are using PAHO internally. So if I'm using the IBM Watson SDK, I'm actually using PAHO. I don't need to do any extra download.
Yeah.
Okay. So the connected home is one. What other things can people do? Because you gave this awesome, agriculture.
So the agriculture one was using Cura. So just using Eclipse Cura for a gateway to collect and aggregate the sensor information and send it to the network is another option. If you want to do something around device management, you could use Lesson for doing device management and building on top of Lesson kind of nice dashboards or whatever. And we're integrated into an industry solution. And so on the cloud stack that we have Lesson, we have just a new project called Eclipse Kapua, which is really an integrated platform for doing IoT cloud solutions. So people could take a look at that. And then on the industrial side, we have the OPC UA implementation in Milo. So if you want to do a project around industrial automation, definitely you could look at that.
So I remember you had something about a car charging. You had a framework for it.
Yeah. That was one of the niche standards. So I can never remember the standard name, but there's a standard for specifying the interface for electrical car charging stations, the software. And so we actually have an implementation of that standard. If you give me 2 seconds,
I can look it up. I will find that for you.
Yeah, it's the project name is Rise V2G, but I can't remember the standard.
No, I remember.
There's too many in this industry.
That was one of the exciting things for me, so I should be able to recall that faster.
You've got a good memory. You have a good memory.
No, the way I think about things is when you tell me things, I'm always looking for who can use it, in what situation can they use it.
Sure.
So that's why I thought the application wise, I was actually thinking, car connectivity.
Yep.
Okay. We'll come to this. So tell us a little bit more about what other applications or what other standards frameworks have we not talked about?
So we've covered most of the highlights. So I think actually we should probably also talk about some of the tooling that we have. So we've actually have a new style IDE called Eclipse J.
Okay, again, you're breaking your. I don't know what's going on, why this happens, but you're breaking again.
Yeah, my guess it's just the Google Hangout connectivity.
Yeah. So by the way, I did find the car charger thing. It is 2 IEC standards, 40 IAC. And Rise V2G.
Okay.
The Rise V2G, I think that's the one you explained what the Rise stands for, and that's where the reference implementation supporting evolution of vehicle to grid. And I just thought that sounded pretty mighty.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back. You don't have any. Your voice is fine. So tell me.
Okay.
You start again of what was the second one you were going to say? Another example.
I forget what I was going to say. Let me.
I was asking you what other frameworks have we not covered?
Oh, I was going to talk about tooling.
Yeah.
We actually have a project called Eclipse J, which is a new style IDE that essentially takes Docker containers and lets you kind of switch your workspaces for using Docker containers. And so Samsung actually has developed what they call the Arctic IDE that uses Eclipse Che under the covers. So it makes it a lot easier to build solutions for Arctic boards, for instance. So kind of, I think that's of interest should be of interest to many people. We also have a C++ IDE that's been customized for Arduino development. So if you're doing some Arduino development, instead of using their Arduino tools, which I think could be a bit primitive, you could use our C++ IDE that's very popular and that's been customized to their Arduino toolchain.
That's awesome. You mentioned that IBM Watson in their SDK actually, calls your framework. So I was just curious because I know, at least from my worldview where I'm seeing developers, there's a whole bunch of people excited about machine learning and, especially Watson, right? Is their favorite. I keep seeing examples. So if a Watson IoT developer who's playing with it is looking at this, what do you suggest they can do? What kind of frameworks? Give them a cheat sheet. I'm like, guys, we have these frameworks you can tap into, go build something.
Yeah, so what I would, if I was an IBM Watson developer, kind of wanted to use the machine learning, the question is, how do you get all the information to Watson? Right. So how do you get the information off the sensors and send it to Watson? And that's where Eclipse Cura would come in. Right. So, and this is what the guys last year who won did, right, is they used Eclipse Cura to get the information from the heart rate sensor, the temperature sensor, the body moisture sensor, send it to Eclipse Cura connected to Watson. And so that's, I think, the pattern that we typically see, where people need to have some type of hub for collecting the information to send to the machine learning and to the big data analytics engines in the cloud.
So that's fantastic. So to elaborate on that, so why would somebody use Cura in the middle instead of connecting directly to Watson? I mean, how much time are you going to save them? And because it is open source, what is the advantage for them?
Well, so I think why you need any type of gateway is because often the sensors don't have an IP stack. They're not connected.
Yeah, yes.
Right. So they're connected with Bluetooth or Zigbee, right, or some type of protocol. The other reason is that you don't want to, if it's a remote application, you don't have to put a SIM card in all your sensors, right? It's just it's not cost effective. And so you typically put some type of hub in, which I would call a gateway. And so, yes, you could build it yourself. You could buy a gateway from someplace. There's lots of hardware vendors that are selling gateways with some software. But what a lot of people are doing is saying, you know what, let's just start with a Raspberry Pi. And by the way, instead of building it all myself, this is a really good open source project at Eclipse IoT called Cura. I'll use that as the building platform for where I can kind of put the actual application running, but utilize the services that are provided by Cura. So it's just really make it a lot more efficient and a lot easier and cheaper to build the solution.
This is fantastic. I think we are getting to almost to the end of our show.
Okay.
So you're talking about Eclipse not just offering something open source options for Java developers, but you mentioned people who do JavaScript, people who are even doing Python, right?
Yep.
And C++. That is one I learned today. The other thing is when we are talking about IoT, it is not just the maker. Even for the maker, all they have to do is for your contest, they have to submit a proposal by end of Thanksgiving night, Friday.
Yep.
And what you're giving them is for 10 of these that you think is awesome, top of the list, you're actually going to give out some kind of gift card for.
That's right.
Does it mean those 10 are your toppers, or you're just kind of helping them out? It's still somebody else who didn't get the 10, get the gift card, still has a choice to be your winner.
Yep, for sure.
Yep. And then we discussed about various different applications. It was pretty inspiring. I think people will get ideas from there. And the PubNub developers could use this. The IBM Watson developers could use this. The Samsung, Arctic developers could use that. I see a whole pool of developers who could now come in and all they have to do is write a proposal. So maybe
that's right.
spend an hour or so after their dinner, Thanksgiving
That's
dinner.
right. That's right. And for people that aren't celebrating Thanksgiving, you've got lots of time.
That's true. That's true. We tend to think that everybody is doing that.
Because in Canada, we already had our Thanksgiving in October, so we're done.
And you don't do shopping? Do you do shopping around the time we do? Like
no, we save that for Christmas. So.
Okay, so remind me again. Where is the Eclipse Challenge site where people can sign up and anything else?
So you go to iot.eclipse.org to sign up. There's a link there to the challenge. Certainly, if you go to our Twitter feed, Eclipse IoT, there's lots of information about the challenge there.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Ian.
thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, that's it. That's the show for today. Thanks, folks, and I'll see you next time.
Hi, guys. If you like the show, this is where you press subscribe.